Hey everybody, Cole here. As you know, we typically release a brand new episode each Friday. However, you also know that things don't always go to plan in life, and this happens to be one of those weeks. So we are actually going to be rerunning. Do we still have reruns out in the world? People of my generation know what I'm talking about. But we're going to be replaying one of our favorite episodes from season 1 of the show. This originally aired back on October 18th of 2024. It was titled, Where the HE Double Hockey Sticks Is My Roofer. I had a conversation with owner and president of Pro Exteriors, Aaron Rogers, and we talked about how when hiring a contractor, you want to partner with a business that is going to be around for the long haul. You want to be contracting with someone who has weathered the storms, both literally and figuratively. And when something inevitably goes awry, just as our plans have this week, you want a contractor who is going to stand behind his or her work. We talked about all sorts of things. I think this is worth giving another listen to if you listened to it back in October, or maybe if you're new to the show. I promise you this is going to be an episode that provides you with some really good, helpful information, especially if you are looking to embark on an exterior home remodeling project. So we will be back next Friday with a brand new episode, but for now, stick around and hear my conversation with Aaron Rogers. Coming up on today's episode, of the 69,296 private construction firms that started operation in 2001, 56% were still around 3 years later, 26.6% made it to year 10, and only 17.2% were still in operation 20 years later. That is a failure rate of nearly 82.8%. This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. I am part of the marketing team at Pro Exteriors, and today, joined as always, I have owner and president of Pro Exteriors, Aaron Rogers, with me. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Cole. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm loving this fall weather, except for the sinusy things that are messing with me, but I love this cooler weather.
Yeah, they just cut we have about 180 acres of corn across the street. They just cut down and underplowed that field, so our yard is currently full of corn debris. So,
yeah, I recall living across from a cornfield before my family moved, and
that's right. Yeah,
our house was normally blue, and then this time of year, the siding turned this weird corny kind of color because of all the dust it kicked up. Anyhow, wow. Scintillating content we are creating.
Great word.
Aaron, we missed you last week. It was fun having Brad on the show. I want to let our audience know, because we've picked up some new followers in the last week, what they can expect each week that they tune into this show, and then remind you, just because it was a week ago since you were here, in case you forgot. Each week, we tackle a question that's either been asked directly to us by one of our customers, or it's a question that we as consumers have asked. And we typically live in the home remodeling, exterior remodeling space, but really it's questions about the industry that we live in. And today is not much different than that. Actually, it's no different at all. But Aaron, I thought we would start with some fun statistics to get things going.
Okay.
I tell you, in preparation for this, I started titling the doc Statistics, but I was like, you know what? I want to put fun in front of it, because that just, I don't know.
Fun statistics.
Because I'm a parent, and I've learned the tricks of the trade of trying to get people to pay attention to me. All right, so here we go. Aaron, did you know that 67% of all statistics are made up?
Yes.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell if that was a multiple choice question or
no. 67% of all statistics are made up. All right.
That's a fun one.
The source for all of these stats are from Reddit. So, audience, you will want to fact check me, okay? The Statue of Liberty wears a size 879 sandal.
That's a fact. Everyone knows it.
Yeah. All right. So I live in Kentucky now. For those of you that don't know that, even in the 2022 Kentucky Derby, 19 of the 22 entered horses can trace their lineage to Secretariat.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. We collectively receive about 2.4 billion robocalls per month. We're in election season. I bet you that number is even higher.
Yeah, I feel it's probably a little higher.
All right, going out of our country, 48% of British people wouldn't go to space even if their safety was guaranteed, with the most popular reason being that they simply just don't have any interest in going. British are very honest people. Yeah, I don't have any interest in that either. This was an interesting one to me. 20% of the mammal species on our planet are different types of bats. It says there's 5,000 species of mammals, and about 1,000 of them are varieties of our little winged buddies.
How about that?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but it's interesting.
It's at least an interesting fact either way.
Yeah.
Or not fact.
All right, this next one I've heard talked about on the Nateland podcast. I don't know if you're a Nate Bargatze
love that guy
fan or not, but a full 6% of Americans reckon they could beat a grizzly bear in unarmed combat.
In unarmed combat. So basically, the bear doesn't have arms. It's an unarmed bear.
Bear doesn't have
either
arms. That or the bear does not have a
if a bear doesn't have arms, I'm winning for sure.
Yeah. I wonder what that percentage is of men polled. If there's a difference between men and women and the confidence of being able to beat a grizzly bear.
Well, I think that any real man who considers himself to be of, sound mind and, a solid frame, I think at one point in his upbringing has probably looked at a bear and gone, you know what? In the right circumstances, I could take him. Probably not a mama bear. Maybe a daddy bear. Mama bears, I heard, are more fierce.
Yes, yeah, especially if they're younger around. I don't know. I used to vacation.
That's a Kentucky reference. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, that stat said reckon in it.
Reckon. Yep.
Yeah. I grew up going to a cabin in the woods in Potter County, Pennsylvania, with my family and cousins, and we used to watch The Great Outdoors while we were there.
Oh, perfect.
John Candy and
the old 76er.
That movie used to terrify me because we would see bears would walk up to our cabin, and then I'm watching this giant bear break its way into a cabin that looked a lot like where we were.
Interesting.
Anyhow, yeah. Staying on the animal stats, dragonflies have a 95% hunt success rate, making them the most effective hunters in the world. It's pretty cool. 34% of adults and 75% of children sleep with a stuffed animal or blanket or other sentimental object as their comfort object. 34% of adults.
I could see it.
Yeah. The human eye blinks about 4.2 million times a year on average.
It's a great time to have a staring contest.
Yeah, just reading that one made me blink. All right, this we're coming down the home stretch here. 18% of all boating accidents are caused by people trying to pee over the side.
Oh, God.
And that one had some actual evidence supporting that claim, so I believe it to be true.
How about that?
All right, last one. Audience, listen in real carefully. This is kind of wordy. This is not from Reddit. This is from a more reputable source. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of the 69,296 private construction firms that started operation in 2001, 56% were still around 3 years later. 26.6% made it to year 10, and only 17.2% were still in operation 20 years later.
Wow.
That's a failure rate of 82.8%.
Wow.
Yeah,
Kind
so
of a big number.
it is kind of a big number. I just want to read that last part again because it's pretty hard to digest all those numbers. But out of almost 70,000 private construction firms that started in 2001, only 17% were still in operation 20 years later.
Wow.
Aaron, as a business owner, I would imagine that that's both sobering to hear, but also encouraging to hear. As we were just talking yesterday, we're in our 20th year. We're about to celebrate Pro Exterior's 20th birthday, but at the same time, that's still sobering. It's startling. Why is it that so many businesses, specifically construction businesses, that start out with the best of intentions, why is it that so many of them aren't around just a couple years after they've opened their doors?
So I would say the number one reason is going to be that a lot of people start their own companies in the construction industry simply because they're really, really good at the actual work. And I think that a lot of people see their bosses or their companies making, a good living, or we'll say a better living than they are. And they go, oh, you know what? I'm going to start my own thing. The nitty gritty of why companies fail is more kind of based around the business part of construction. And most people that will say carpenters, so people that actually are good with their hands, are able to physically do the work, aren't good at the other side of the business. So I think that a lot of those guys go into business because, the economy's good. There's so much work out there. We saw this during COVID in 2020, 21. So many people that were previously employees, went out and started their own companies because there was just literally just so much work. And, we've seen a lot of those come back to the labor pool over the last year. But yeah, I think it comes down to is the guys or girls, persons are simply good at the work, and they want to branch out and be able to kind of have a little bit more control and potentially make a little bit more money. It's not quite as easy. The business side of construction can ruin you. I believe, and again, we could probably find that statistic. The number one reason I think that contractors technically go out of business is because of cash flow. We take deposits from people most of the time. We end up funding a lot of projects with our own money. And eventually it gets to the point where, as your company grows, you get to the point where you're owed so much money that the cash flow may run out. Or, you may get a 2008, 2009 mortgage crisis. The economy tanks. There's quite a few factors. I think everybody over the last few years, with COVID starting in the home improvement industry, the space went crazy. They couldn't manufacture enough materials to keep up with the demand, which is unheard of. It's never happened before. So at the same time, price for everything went up. And guys who didn't have properly written contracts ended up having to pay out of pocket for a lot of that additional cost. We saw in 1 year, I can't remember if it was 6 or 7 price increases from our manufacturing partners. That's unheard of. An average year we'll get 1, sometimes 2 in kind of a weird economy. But yeah, I mean, we were seeing pressure treated lumber, for instance. Like, we were paying I don't even remember what it was. We're paying $8 or something for a 2x6, 10, 12. And I think a year later we were paying like $32.
Probably for
So
lesser quality
for a lesser
lumber.
quality and, younger lumber, which when we talk about lumber, the age of the lumber matters because older lumber had tighter green and was allowed a little bit more time to actually soak in the preservative to make it pressure treated. So yeah, so there's a lot of factors that go into it.
We are primarily a show meant for our customers, for people that are doing research on their own home. I also know that there are some guys, girls in the industry that also tune in. But why should I, as a consumer, as a homeowner, care? I don't want this to sound heartless, but why should I care if a construction company goes out of business? There's plenty out there that I can go find the next one. But how does it impact the homeowner? I'm thinking about, work that's been done by a company, then they go out of business a year later, or
Yeah.
they've promised me a warranty on the work that they've done or all the products that they've installed, and then they're gone. How does that end up impacting me?
Well, so if you have work done, every state may or may not have kind of like laws in regards to warranty. I know the state of Delaware contractors are required to warrant all of their work for 12 consecutive months after completion. But let's say your contractor goes out of business 2 years after you have work done. It's 5 years down the road, your roof or your windows or what have you, you notice they're leaking. So you call the original contractor and you go, I've got this issue, and they're no longer in business. Either the phone number goes to a different company, it goes to a different person, or they answer the phone and be like, yeah, unfortunately, this is still my number, but I'm no longer in business. I now work for somebody else. You no longer have a warranty. So we talk about manufacturers' warranties. Manufacturers typically, not to say that they don't ever, but typically don't go out of business, and that's why it is so important to have a manufacturer's warranty on the products and hopefully the labor as well. But yeah, you pay somebody for a service. You hope that some of that money is based upon the fact that you're getting a warranty for X amount of years. If they go out of business within the X amount of years and you have an issue, you're now paying additional money out of pocket to, fix or correct that work. Typically, the guys that are going out of business, their warranty may be just kind of a figment warranty, or like you said, statistics 67% are not accurate. A lot of people have written warranties that mean absolutely nothing. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to pay for a warranty, I think everybody agrees that we want to see that warranty, work when the time comes, or if the time comes. So,
do you have any tips for how to vet warranties and to find out? I mean, it's very easy to slap a logo on a contract that says lifetime warranty, but how do you vet that? How do you find out if that's real?
I mean, the easiest thing to do is to ask for a copy of the actual warranty. So if there's still a lot of contractors out there that use what literally looks like an invoice, it's a one-page contract, and it'll say in some variation on there, contractor warrants all work for a period of, blank months or blank years. Ask them outright, hey, do you mind if I see a copy of your warranty? If they can't provide you with a physical piece of paper that has all of the warranty verbiage, all the terms and conditions specifically about their warranty, what it covers and what it doesn't cover, then that warranty is nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You are 100% relying on that person's word. It doesn't matter how trustworthy a person is. It comes down to it. Somebody could go out of business for financial reasons. They could go out of business as a result of a divorce, or, worst case scenario, a medical reason. They get into a car accident, they perish, the company dissolves, and that warranty means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Every company out there that provides you with a warranty can provide you with a warranty paper. If they can't provide that paper, that warranty means nothing.
Okay. We've talked on previous episodes about the fact that when you go, let's say you get 3 estimates from 3 different companies, those estimates are going to vary sometimes widely between one to another company.
Agreed.
Why should I not by default just go with the cheap roofer or the cheap contractor? Why is there no real savings to go that way?
So materials are expensive, labor is expensive, and then ultimately, when you hire a contractor, he needs to not only pay for his overhead, but he also needs to be able to pay for growth. He needs to be able to pay for warranty backlog. Doesn't matter how good of a contractor you are, we all have warranty issues. Good contractors will always come back and take care of their warranty issues. But you go with the cheap guy, and the economy gets a little tight, and he goes out of business because he didn't charge appropriately. He's not making a profit. We talked, I think it was yesterday, we talked about the difference between markup and margin. And the stereotypical thing is like, I want to make 30%. And they just go, okay, I'll multiply my overhead by 1.3. Well, a 1.3 markup is not a 30% margin. So that's like the error that a lot of guys make, that ultimately makes them realize at the end of the day, they have no money left. And, you deserve to hire somebody that's going to be here in 10 years, 20 years. And, that comes with a cost. So we as the contractor owe you, the consumer, to charge appropriately to make sure that we are here. When we say we're going to be here for the lifetime of this product or this project, we owe it to you as the consumer to be here, to follow through with that. So a lot of guys, again, cash flow is always, the largest thing in my 20 years in the industry. It's always been cash flow is the number one issues that causes contractors to go out of business. So me being in the industry and having that experience, when I see 3 bids side by side and I see this guy at 10, this guy at 12.5, and this guy at 14, the guy that's at 10,000 is missing something. And the statistics will tell you that the chance of him being here in 5 years are pretty slim. And then also the same thing, because we're talking about warranties, the chance of him following through on that warranty is slim. So I look at a warranty shouldn't be coming out and looking at something and doing the cheapest possible fix in order to fix a mistake that you made, but it's, doing everything that you could potentially do to make sure that never becomes an issue again. So yeah, a lot of the guys just don't charge appropriately. The low price bidder typically is that exact scenario. So not to say that it's wrong, but it always makes me kind of throw up a red flag.
All right, Aaron, when a company is underbidding, what are some of the most common things that they are missing out on?
So the easiest thing is like, it's an expensive business to be in regards to like the insurance that we have to pay. So when you meet with a contractor and they give you your price, one of the first things and easiest things you can ask for is like, look, can I see your license and can I see your insurance? So, almost everybody out there will have a general liability policy, but that insurance should also cover their vehicles. It should also cover workman's comp, even if they're a sole owner and they have no physical employees and they utilize subcontractors for everything. They should still have workman's comp for themselves. And these are all things that we want to make sure. If they have any employees whatsoever and they can't provide a copy of their workman's comp insurance, that's a huge red flag, because if they don't have it, then you are now liable for anybody he has working on that job site. So workman's comp is really, really expensive. Carpenters, I believe, is like a 23% workforce tax rate. Roofers, guys that physically do roofing every single day, I think is 34%. And that's with no accidents. That's before you have any accidents. You have one accident, I think it goes up to like 37%. Guys, they'll start their business with a a 5-year-old paid off truck, and they don't ever think about the fact that at some point that truck's going to fail and they're going to have to buy a new truck. So they don't factor in the fact that, you need to bank, a truck payment every single month, regardless of whether or not you need a new truck.
Mm-hmm.
They don't plan for taxes. At the end of the year, they may show zero profit. You still owe taxes. They don't plan for rainy days. They don't plan for when things might get a little tight. We're dealing with an election cycle right now, and this industry is always kind of up and down during an election cycle. So what happens if you're used to doing, say, 10 roofs a week or 10 jobs a week, and then all of a sudden you're doing 4? I mean, you're going to go from this amount to this amount, and you're already charging lower than the competition. So, that money's got to come from somewhere. And this is often when we start seeing contractors start doing the, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and they get themselves in a cycle that eventually gets to the point where there's just no money left. You've spent all the deposit money for other projects. There is no money left, and then they go out of business. There's a guy right now, I think here locally, that just got arrested for, he was doing pools. He had, I think it was $1.5 million or something like that, where he had taken deposits for projects and never touched them. Or I think one lady said she gave him $40,000. He dug the hole, put the fiberglass pool in the hole, and then nothing else got done. No plumbing, no electrical, no concrete work, no nothing. And that's a story you see nationwide happen all the time.
So chances are that guy probably was not a crook. He probably didn't start out by saying, I'm going to go into the pool business and rip people off. I mean, maybe, but I'm saying,
So this guy in particular that I'm talking about, I think has been in business 5 or 6 different times. I don't know if you read the actual article, but
I saw
this guy
headline.
Did it in New Jersey, and then he came here, and he's done it 3 times here. So this guy may have had some malice in his heart.
But a lot of companies have the best of intentions.
The majority of their companies don't go into it with that being the case, but unfortunately they get themselves into a bind.
Yeah.
They see that deposit money sitting there. They can't afford their mortgage. They can't afford to pay their guys. And you're like, you know what? I'll work a little harder next week.
Yep.
And they'll pay that money back. But it never works that way. So yeah, there's just equipment needed, warranty issues. You have to put money away for warranty. Again, doesn't matter how good you are. You will have warranty work. And again, if something leaks, it doesn't mean taking the tube of caulk and going out there and caulking a couple things. You're not doing your customer any service by going out there and fixing your issue with just dabbing some caulk on it. So,
right.
Yeah,
those are all really good tips and things that, I wouldn't typically think of. Are there any other quick tips, easy ways to vet the contractor that you're considering?
So we ask for references when we hire employees. Ask your contractor for references, and go outside of, just go outside of the ones that he provides to you. And what I mean by that is if he gives you 2 or 3 people, it's yeah, call them, they'll vouch for me. No, where do you buy the bulk of your materials? I'm going to call them. For instance, let's say Universal Supply, ABC Supply, Beacon Products, those are the top 3 suppliers in our industry. Do you buy any of your supplies from them? And if so, which brands, and who should I talk to? Call that branch. Again, I think we talked about this on a previous episode. Call them and find out if they're current on their bill. If they're not current on their bill, I mean, that shows possibly some financial insecurity there. So license, insurance, call around for their references. Can you show me pictures of similar projects that you've done? And then ultimately, then it goes into the red flags of the actual contract. But yeah, if you're trying to do apples to apples, do a true apples to apples. If they have a warranty, I want to see it in writing. And then is it an in-house warranty, or is there a warranty that is associated through the manufacturer? Because then even if, potentially if they go out of business, at least the manufacturer is still there to kind of pick up the load. So
couple of quick questions, and then we're going to wrap things up.
Okay.
You already hit on this, but I want to hit on it again. What happens if my roofer or my contractor goes out of business during a warranty claim?
If they are out of business or going out of business during a warranty claim, you are SOL. Sugar out of luck, I think is what that stands for. Yep. Yeah. So you're pretty much looking to pay a third party, another contractor, to come in there and fix the job. I have been in situations where people have screwed up jobs so bad that had to be completely redone, and it's cost people more than double what the original contract is worth.
Just for clarity's sake, that's on the workmanship warranty. You could check if the manufacturer warranty would cover material.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can always check back with the actual manufacturer of the products. If you have an enhanced warranty, typically you would have paperwork from the manufacturer that shows you have that enhanced warranty. In the instance of dealing with like shingles, we kind of break it down into two different warranties. You have what's called a wrapper warranty, which is every shingle manufacturer has a warranty on their shingles, which is essentially only covering the shingles, doesn't cover anything else. Doesn't cover any of the accessory products, doesn't cover the labor, the disposal cost, the permitting, none of that. And it's also typically going to be prorated. So whatever you paid today, 10 years from now, you're not getting anywhere close to what you paid today. If you have like an enhanced warranty through a manufacturer, typically they're going to come in and they're going to cover all the materials, the labor, the disposal cost, the permitting, and typically they're going to pay not what you paid for the original project, but they're going to pay like current rates. So
gotcha. Yeah. Audience, we did a pretty deep dive on warranties in a previous episode. So if you still have questions about warranties, be sure to go back and check our backlog of episodes. But speaking of warranties, Aaron, can I transfer a warranty to a new homeowner?
You can. Typically that can be done at no cost within a certain time period.
Okay.
After a certain amount of years, sometimes manufacturers will have a cost associated with that. But yes, almost all warranties are fully transferable.
All right, Aaron, before we close, I want to read that stat one more time that we started the show with, just in hopes that it sinks in again, and just the importance that as homeowners that we do our homework and our due diligence and all the things before signing a contract that's going to be multiples, sometimes 10s, 20s, large amounts of money. That was weirdly said, but hopefully you get the point. All right, so this is according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Of the 69,296 private construction firms that started operation in 2001, 56% were still around 3 years later. 26.6% made it to year 10, and only 17.2% were still in operation 20 years later. That is a failure rate of nearly 82.8%. Yeah, those numbers are staggering. They're hard to really wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But again, that is just why it is so important that our house is our biggest investment across the board, pretty much. I mean, I don't know anybody in my sphere where they have an investment larger than their home.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we take a couple of extra steps to make sure that we're hiring companies that are going to be around to take care of things?
Yeah, your home is safety. It it represents a lot of different things, safety and solitude, and it typically houses not only your mental memories but a lot of your physical memories. And why would you put that at jeopardy for a temporary
like a discount,
monetary gain?
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, thank you as always for being the pro in this and for allowing me to be the bumbling goofball that I am. But thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Hey, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, would you help us continue to get the word out about our show? The best way to do this is to leave a review. If you could, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on social media or tell a friend. Also, before we go, we want to hear from you. This show does not exist without your questions. Would you please send us any questions you have about an upcoming home remodeling project to info at askproexteriors.com, and in the subject line, simply put, "You Ask." If you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. As always, until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com.